Hi everybody, welcome to Talks with DK. I hope everybody is doing better now that the election is over. Well, it's over for some of us, right? First and foremost, I want to give you a little numerology tidbit. I'm certainly not a numerology expert, but I can give you this much anyways. Donald Trump was the 45th president of the United States. In numerology, that equals a 9. And a 9 is symbolic of endings. President-elect Joe Biden is president number 46. In numerology, that equals a 1, which is symbolic for new beginnings. President-elect Joe Biden will take office on January 20th, 2021. And that numerology is equal to an 8, which is symbolic for success. Also, number 8, biblically speaking, has the symbolism of resurrection and rejuvenation. In other words, we are on the right path and on point for the spiritual evolution of our country. Something that I have encountered a lot on Twitter is that there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there that believe that Donald Trump is going to save us spiritually. It honestly makes me sad to know that people are following these theories and these individuals putting out those theories, because these are usually good and decent and honest human beings who are on a spiritual path just like you and I are. But they fell into something that is not what they think. If this is your first trip to my YouTube page, I suggest you go back and watch all of my previous videos. They're short and there's only about 10 of them. That way you'll know exactly where I'm coming from. And if, after watching them all and digesting what I teach, ask yourself if this could even be feasible, that Donald Trump is our spiritual leader. Donald Trump is probably one of the least compassionate, empathetic, and loving individuals that I've ever witnessed on the planet. He is filled with negative energy. Arrogance, egotistical, hateful, dishonest, narcissistic, and sometimes even cruel. Ask yourself this question. Would a man of God, or even someone high on that spiral of evolution that we've talked about so many times in these videos, behave in this manner and bear those kind of qualities? I highly doubt it. Would that individual make fun of people, including the handicapped? Would they judge people of color? After all, God created all of us, not just the white people. Would that person be okay with separating children from their parents and putting people of all ages into cages? Especially innocent children? Now, I'm not a doctor, but I did study psychology, specifically abnormal psychology, and it's obvious to even me that Donald Trump has narcissistic personality disorder. If you're not sure what that is, just Google the name of the disorder followed by the 3 initials, DSM. Here's a basic description, but if you look it up, you'll see a very long list of attributes relative to this disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental condition in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, troubled relationships, and a lack of empathy for others. But behind this mask of extreme confidence lies a fragile self-esteem that's vulnerable to the slightest criticism. Does that sound like Donald Trump? Yeah, it does. I did do a little bit of research yesterday, and I found an article on Psychology Today that stated that Trump's behavior could be explained by narcissistic personality disorder, and that 70,000 mental health professionals signed a petition warning of Trump's potential dangerousness, even though they had not personally met him or diagnosed him. So I guess it's not just me. And I'm pretty convinced that this is not who God or the universe would choose to lead us to the promised land or the next level of spiritual evolution. Yet half the country voted for him. As disheartening as that is for me and you, I'm sure, I want you to realize that not everyone who voted for him is part of that base. The base that follows him the way they would any good cult leader. Some voted for him because he was the Republican candidate, and they vote red no matter what. Abortion, capitalism, anti-socialism, you get the gist. Some voted for him because they feel that the economy has done well under his leadership. Although I haven't seen that in my 401k. Just saying. Some voted for him because they believe he's going to drain the swamp because he's not a career politician like many others are in Washington. I'm going to preface my next statement with the fact that I'm not a Democrat, liberal or otherwise, and I'm not a Republican, conservative or otherwise. I'm an independent that votes based on the person, not on the party. And I don't think the White House has looked any more swampier than it has the past 4 years. Yes, there's a lot of corruption in Washington. There always has been. But there's also a lot of corruption in corporate America. And no one individual is going to undo that overnight. We have to look at politics the way we would look at recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. The goal is progress, not perfection. Anyways, back to Trump supporters. There are those that follow QAnon and other conspiracy theories. When I dialogue with them, they say, do your research. Where? Like on the internet or YouTube? They all say there's proof. Well, where is it? I haven't seen any proof yet. Have any of you? And then there is Trump's base. These are what the media refers to as white, uneducated, blue-collar folks who sometimes don't know how to behave in a civilized manner. And boy, do they love their guns and any reason to use them. These are the scariest people of all for me. But you know what? Not every white, uneducated, blue-collar voter acts the way that these people do. So don't lump them all together. They're not all ignorant and racist and shouldn't be painted that way. You know, my parents were white, uneducated, and blue-collar, but they always voted Democratic. You want to know why? Because they cared about other people besides themselves. Listen, I grew up in a very mixed neighborhood with a lot of people of color back in the 50s and 60s. And typically, as more black people came into our community, more white people left. But we didn't. We stayed. Some people would have been scared to grow up in that neighborhood. But I never was. You know why? One, because the only really negative thing that happened to me in that neighborhood was that a man exposed himself to me. And he was white. Also, I didn't have any racial prejudice. because that's just not the way our parents raised us. We were poor, that is for sure. And I often wondered how my parents raised 6 children on their collective incomes. We did all right. And we owned a large piece of land right next to our house where we grew a lot of our own food. We had around 12 fruit trees and a huge vegetable garden. And my dad built this huge grape arbor by hand himself, where from that we would not only eat grapes, but my mother would make homemade jelly as well. My dad, he would always have us filling up bushels filled with fruit and vegetables to bring to the elderly women of color who were widowed and didn't have someone to help them out. Go bring these tomatoes to Gerda across the street. When it snowed, my dad would say, go get your shovels and head over to Mrs. Washington's house and shovel her driveway and her sidewalk so she can get in and out to go to work. Everybody in our neighborhood loved my dad. And when I was 16 years old, he did pass away, but my mother carried on that same giving tradition. Every Wednesday, we would have spaghetti and meatballs for dinner. And some of the kids in the neighborhood would wait for us to finish our dinner so they could come over and eat the leftovers. Now, my mother was doing this all on her own at this point, and she still had 4 of us living at home. She could have hoarded that food, but she didn't. She gave it away. The reason I'm telling you this is because I want to make the point that racism and prejudice is taught. We are not born with ignorance. We learn it. And that's why we're still here 60 years later talking about equality. So again, if God or the universe is choosing someone to lead us through this period of spiritual evolution up the spiral, do you think that they would choose a leader who's biased when it comes to race and ethnicity? I think not. You know, a few years ago, we had a group reading with Dharma, and people asked a few questions that are relative to our current political climate. Question: is there really a new world order movement being led by a secret society called Illuminati? Answer: no, there is not. So you can put the conspiracy theories to rest. Question: is the Tea Party in this country right now, the KKK, reformed? Answer: yes, it is the same hatred. Question: and that is why they are talking about getting rid of everything that they have to pay for? Answer: yes, and separating children. They won't claim that though, but that is the ideology. As I've explained in previous videos, there is a battle going on right now between the light and the darkness. And mark my words, the light will win as we continually climb the spiral of evolution, not only as individuals, but as a community, as a country, and as a world. How can you assist? First and foremost, by loving yourselves. And if you haven't watched that video yet, you should. And then let that love ripple out into the universe, towards everyone, even Republicans, especially Trump supporters. You heard me. I'm not saying that you have to be friends with them or have these people in your life, but remember what I taught you about the collective consciousness and collective energy. We did it for the election, and we can do it to heal our nation as well. But these individuals are spiritually lost, and they need the light more now than ever before. So be it. Until we talk again, and we will, Be blessed and stay safe. Namaste.